So my entry into Benny's Halloween contest this year made it into the top 40, which is better than last year. I mean, I never expect a place, I just enjoy the challenge and seeing what everybody else comes up with. Well, enough of you expressed interest in seeing a layer breakdown of my entry, so here it is. Hope it's insightful in some way. If you find this or any of my videos helpful or entertaining in any way, please feel free to like and follow the channel. You can also find me on Instagram at DamageWork. Alright, let's break it down. Starting from this rough sketch that showcases my elite drawing skills, and don't you dare say otherwise, I started placing in and arranging the elements of the scene. With this church image, I first masked it out from the background, then went ahead and added a hole in the side where the lava is going to be coming out. Then dropped in this image to form part of the ground. I masked out the background to roughly match the sketch, then brought in another ground image, masking out the background from it as well. Then I used a textured brush layer to mask away some parts of this layer and reveal the ground layer that's beneath it. This blends the two layers together in such a way that we can see some of the rougher rock and dirt texture along with the bushes. It just makes the ground more interesting, I guess. For the main mountain that the demon is going to be attached to, I brought in this image of the Matterhorn mountain in Switzerland. I'll need to remove all the man-made objects first, like these lights and this building. Then I'll lower the opacity so I can see the sketch and warp it into place with the warp tool. And mask it out from the background. Now I need to build up the mountain range all around this main one. I brought in this image and placed it behind the main mountain, made a duplicate of it and put it on the other side, then masked the backgrounds out of both. Brought in another mountain image and placed this one in front of the main mountain, masked out the sky as well, duplicated it, flipped it, and moved it to the other side. To add in one more layer of mountains closest to the church, I just masked back in the mountains from that first ground image. It was quite serendipitous that out of the 3 images of himself Benny provided for people to use for the contest, this one where he's, I guess, doing the Bigfoot pose, fits almost perfectly with the sketch I had made. I'll of course change his shape and blend him into the mountain a little bit later, but for now, I'll add the horns. First the horn from this image for the big horns, mask it out, and warp it closer to the sketch. Duplicate and flip that to the other side. I changed the warp just a bit so it's not identical. Then this image for the next horns, masked, warped, and copied to the other side. And finally this image for the smallest horns. Zzz. Ding. We're all done with the sketch, so we can turn that off. Next I brought in this sky image. I wanted these clouds to look as if they were kind of circling around the demon, so I used the warp tool and distorted them. Apart from just looking cool, this, along with darkening the edges and lowering the layer's opacity just a tad, has the added benefit of helping to focus the viewer's attention on the demon. I drew out the path I wanted the lava to flow from the church onto a separate layer so I could easily clip my lava texture layers to it. I'm not really sure what this white color is here. I noticed it when going through my layers for this video and just left it alone as it might be important. I don't know. I found this image of some lava, warped and changed its perspective to match the path I drew, and clipped it to it. I also like this lava image, so I warped, masked, and clipped it as well. Then put it on light and blending mode to remove the darker areas. Now I wanted this lava to look like it was set into the ground, not sitting above it. Like an earthquake had split the ground open and the lava was just flowing through that opening. So I used this stone texture and masked it in along the edges of the lava to give it the appearance of it being below the surface. I went ahead and darkened that texture with the levels adjustment so I could see the effect better. The space behind the church is looking a little plain, so let's drop in some dead trees. This image will look good. Let's mask it, duplicate it, and move it over to this other side. Then do the same thing with this image, and just copy and paste to fill in some other spots. I want a couple of larger trees in there too, so let's put this one in and mask it out. And then this one on the other side. I wanted to add some other things that might be around an old church, but I really wanted to avoid the obvious choice of gravestones. So I found these images of stone arches and placed those in a couple of spots. That works. All during October, I was rewatching a ton of old zombie movies, as well as playing a lot of Zombie Army 4 on Xbox. So I had zombies on the brain and wanted to add a few in this image. Like they were kind of minions of the lava demon maybe. I don't know, that's the excuse I'm going with. In fact, I'm pretty sure this one here is from the Zombie Army games. This one I removed the head because I wanted to replace it with this gas mask. Now I'll just put in a few more. Alright, I know I said I didn't want gravestones, but I really needed something in the foreground. It's just one, and it looks cool, damn it. Okay, time to turn Benny into a mountain lava demon thing. First, I used the same mountain texture that he's connected to and clipped it to him so the texture between him and the mountain is consistent. Then, masked away some of the mountain's top for a smooth transition. Looks good, but because of the sweat jacket Benny's wearing, he's looking a bit chongy. Also, the edges are too smooth. They need to look more rocky, so I just went all around him and chiseled away until I got a shape I thought looked sufficiently demon-like. Alright, all the elements are in place. Now to get things blended together by adjusting the color and light values. Starting with the Benny mountain, I used levels to darken and hue saturation to adjust color. Then adjusted the background mountains with curves and hue saturation. Same with the foreground ones. All the mountains still had too much of a kind of purplish tone, so I introduced some cyan. That matched the sky a little better. It's really not going to matter much once we get to the color effects part of this process, but at this point in the creation, I didn't know exactly where I was going to go with the color, so it's better just keep things consistent from the get-go. Before adjusting the church's color and tone, there's a couple of things that need to be fixed. First, I don't really want these vines growing on the side. Gone. Second, the lighting on the front of the building is wrong. Our light source right now is coming from the moon, so let's first soften the hard shadows it's creating. Then use levels or curves to even out the light with the rest of the building. Sweet, alright, now we can adjust the color to be more blue. And use levels to darken it. I know, it's super dark, almost pure black. Just wait, cause it's gonna get darker, boy! I still gotta darken down the trees. And the arches. Adjust the color of the ground, and darken it down, and do the same for the zombies. And finally the tombstone. Yeah, yo, that's pretty f***ing dark. I did this intentionally because I wanted to light everything from scratch using the only two sources of light in this image, the moon and the lava. But before doing that though, I'm going to use haze and mist to separate elements from one another and give the illusion of depth and scale. Are you ready?
Aye, aye, Captain!
First, here's a slight haze over the demon to put him further in the background. And some mist behind all the mountains so we can see their silhouette. A layer of mist to separate the background and midground mountains. Then some to separate the church and trees from the mountains. To separate the arches from the trees. And just a little bit more in front of the arches. That's good for now. There'll be a little more later, but it'll be orange and yellow coming from the lava glow, so we'll add that when lighting things up from the lava. Before that though, let's put light on things coming from the moon, starting up here with the demon. I gave him some edge lighting, which also helped give him a little dimension, not so flat and 2D. Next I defined the tops of the mountains with some highlights. And did the same thing on the church by erasing some of the mask from the levels adjustment that made it so dark in the first place. Did the same thing on the arches, and on the zombies. I'm not going to put any moon highlight on the tombstone though because it's so close to the lava, it's going to be totally illuminated by the light from that. Now that we've got some light on things, there should be shadows cast on the ground from them. So I'll put that in now for the church and the zombies. I also felt there was too much light on the mountain in front of the demon here. He's blocking light, so there should be a shadow in front of him. Next, I painted all the lava pouring out of the demon's chest, seeping out through other areas and making his face glow. He grew out of a volcano, you see, so his demonic energy is erupting and pouring out of his evil heart, flowing down the mountain and through the church. Makes sense, savvy? Good. I painted this using the same glow technique that you've seen me use in pretty much every video, and I promise that a video with that technique and a few others that I frequently use is coming. Okay, so the lava's coming down the mountain and into and out of the church. So the inside of the church should be glowing orange and yellow, right? I created a gradient going from bright yellow at the bottom where it's the hottest to dark orange at the top, and masked that onto just the crack in the church. Then cut out all the windows with an orange solid color adjustment first, then a yellow one, and added some glowy details. Now, presumably there would be a trail of lava behind the church that we can't see, where it's entering the church on the backside. So there would be an orange glow in the mist back there. There we go. Did I just pull a Benny? I swear I can't say there we go or there you go without thinking of him. He's totally co-opted that phrase, and it's bullshit. Alright, anyway. Now that there's light coming from the church, we can cast it onto the surrounding objects. Starting with the arches. And then the zombie back here under this one. Then this one. Then this one. And so on, and so on, and so on. You know, of all the zombie movies I've been watching, I can't think of even one off the top of my head where any of the zombies' eyes glow. Yet whenever I put them in my artwork, I always want to make them glow. Some of them definitely glow in the Zombie Army games. I think it just makes them look really cool, especially in dark scenes like this. So let's add some to these guys. Ding. Tss, tss. Alright, now let's spice up the lava and make it look burning hot and turbulent and even. First, I upped the heat by putting an orange glow over it using a solid color adjustment on linear dodge. Then I did the same thing with a yellow one. Then added some glowy bits along the edges of the lava where it meets the wall and burns pieces of the earth. And used various splash texture brushes to paint in some turbulence in the lava's surface from the heat. Now before creating a merged layer and bringing this into Camera Raw filter, I'll usually need to take a break from the image and then come back to look for any details I might want to add or things that need to be fixed. I won't catch them all, but it's better to make as many changes beforehand as possible because it's not always easy to go back and reapply the Camera Raw filter adjustments after the fact. So first I want to add an extra glow and some haze here where the lava is coming out of the church. Another highlight on this edge of the church here to give it more separation. Some more highlights on the edges of the windows. And some more atmospheric haze around the demon to show his scale. Okay, we're ready for Camera Raw now. Yeah, that's a pretty drastic change, but man does it give it a mood. With this much of a change, I could already see a couple of things I wanted to add, but luckily nothing that I couldn't add on top of the Camera Raw filter. I added a lens flare right here, no particular reason other than I just liked how it looked. And because the Camera Raw filter took away so much of the contrast, the zombies don't seem to have enough orange highlights on them, considering how bright the lava still looks. So I just painted some onto them, and a little on the tombstone as well. Now some more color toning, first with a custom action, then a couple of custom color lookup adjustment layers, an overall curves adjustment, then a separate curves adjustment applied just up here to brighten the light coming in through the clouds, and another custom action. Color toning wise, I'm pretty happy with the mood we've got going on here. Now I just need to add a few final effects and we'll be all done. Some dust and particles floating around always looks good. Now you probably won't see it in the video, but I also added some white and black outlines around certain parts of the image and film grain to the whole thing. I kind of felt the lower part of the clouds was a bit dull and lacking in any detail, so I went in and painted some highlights on them. Since the part in the clouds where the light is coming through is so bright now, they should be getting some highlights on them. Next, I combined a couple of different light beam brushes I have to make some light beams shooting out from the demon's eyes. And put just a tiny little glow here where the lava meets the steeple. And finally, one last color curves adjustment to help tie everything together.